Hello, Shelley from Spin Cushions here, and this is my square called Baltic from my Siren Atlas collection. It's quite cool with this little buttony style blob in the centre, and I've been a little bit creative in how I've made some of these clusters, done in a little bit different way to what you may be used to. Anyway, lots of fun, but I'm sure you'll be able to handle it. So I'll be making mine in one colour only, but I'll let you know if you need to do anything different if you want to change colours. So I'm going to start with a magic circle, or you can start with chain 4 joined into a loop if you prefer. Now our first round is we're going to chain 1, but that chain 1 doesn't count in our stitch count. Then we're going to do 8 double crochets UK or 8 single crochets US. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to pull my magic circle tight and just make sure we join up to the first right stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm just joining with a slip stitch to that first stitch. Okay, next round is quite an easy one. Chain 3 starting chain or false stitch like I like to do. You can check out my YouTube channel for that if you need to. And we do a stitch in the same place, the same stitch that we joined to our slip stitch 2. Then in each stitch we're going to do 2 stitches. They're trebles UKs, doubles US. 1, 2. So we should end up with 16 stitches at the end of this round. Okay, so now we just need to join with a slip stitch to our first stitch. Okay, so that's a nice flat circle, but now we're going to turn this flat circle into this stick up button style. So the way we're going to do that is 8 times we're going to double crochet UK, single crochet US, 2 stitches together through the back loops only. So we're going to start with the back loop of the next stitch, insert your hook, pull a loop to the front, then insert your hook into the back loop only of the next stitch, pull a loop to the front, then yarn over and pull through all 3. So that's 1 time, 2, 3, you can see it's starting to form a little button shape. And what did I say? 3, 4. Now I'm actually having to turn my work to be able to keep going because it's pulling everything in. 5. Oops, sorry, split the stitch then. 6. 7, and the last one, oops, just use any loop here. That's the last one. 8. Then we're going to join with a slip stitch to our first 2 stitches together, which is right there. And there we go, a cute little button shape. Okay, now round 4, we're going to chain 3 starting chain or false stitch, and then we are going to do 4 trebles UK, doubles US in that same stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Going to chain 2. We're going to skip 1 stitch, and in the next stitch we're going to do 5 stitches, 5 trebles UK, doubles US. So you can see I've sort of poked my finger in the hole and I'm turning it out a little bit. So we're skipping this stitch and 5 stitches in the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll do that a couple more times and show you how to join up. Alright, repeats are done, and chain 2, skipping that last stitch and joining with a slip stitch to your first stitch. Now, round 5, what we're actually going to be doing is we're going to be joining all of these stitches together in clusters. So we'll be doing treble 5 together, UK terms, or DC double 5 together, US terms. Now you can start with a false stitch, and I'll show you how to do that, and then I'll show you how the pattern's written previously. So I'm starting the first stitch with a false stitch, and then I'm going to start a stitch in the next 4 stitches. Okay, and then, oops. Okay, so that's 5 stitches together started with a false stitch. You can do it that way if you wish, or you can do it as it's written in the pattern. Oops, did it a little bit too much. Which is chain 3 starting chain, and then we're just going to join these stitches together, do a 4 stitch cluster, or 4 stitches together. So we begin the first stitch, stop there, begin the second stitch, stop there, begin the third stitch, begin the 4th stitch, then yarn over and through all of those loops. Okay, so after we've done our 4 stitches together, we're going to chain 3. I've already done 1 chain, 1, 2, 3. And then in this 2 chain space, we're going to do 5 stitches. Trebles UK is doubles US. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to chain 3, and we're going to join the next 5 stitches together. So sometimes you might need to shift those stitches along to find the hole for the first stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we'll chain 3, 5 stitches, chain 3, 5 stitches together. We'll do that all the way around, and I'll show you how to join up. Okay, so there we go. Now, joining up this one, we're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of our clustered together stitches, not the 3rd chain of our starting chain. If you used a false stitch, you would just use the top of your cluster stitch. That's the long sort of stitch you can see here. That's the 3rd chain of our starting chain, but we want to join up to here instead. Underneath both loops, and join with a slip stitch. And there we go. That is round 5 done. So round 6, we're going to chain 3 starting chain or false stitch. Then we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to skip this 3 chain space, and we're going to join these stitches together. So 5, treble 5 UK or double 5 US together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to chain 3, sorry, 1, 2, no 5, 3, 4, 5. skip the 3 chain space, and in the next stitch we're going to do a treble UK WS, chain 3, and another treble UK WS. So chain 3s in the corners and chain 5s along the sides. I'll do that all the way around and show you how to join up. Alright, my repeats are all done. I just need to do a stitch in the same place as our first stitch, which is down here in this cluster. Now if you're changing colours here, chain 3 and join with a slip stitch to your first stitch. If you're not changing colours, chain 1 and pop a scrap of yarn in the hole, and we're going to join with a half treble UK, half WS to the top of our first stitch. Here. So I've yarned over before I've inserted my hook, loop to the front, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So what that does is it puts us as if we're in the middle of a 3 chain space, and this stitch is acting like the chain. We're going to work over that stitch to start our next round. So the stitch marker there will show us where to work the first and last stitches of the next round. So the first thing we do is chain 3 starting chain or false stitch. Then we're going to do 2 stitches over that joining stitch where the stitch marker is. So trebles UK, doubles US. 1, 2. Then we're going to chain 2. We're going to skip this stitch, and in this 5 chain space and this 3 chain space we're going to do 5 double trebles UK or 5 triples US, so over both of those chain loops at the same time. We're going over twice in the big hole down there. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we are going to chain 2. We're going to do a half treble UK, half WS in the next stitch, which is this clustery stitch here. Then we're going to chain 2, and we're going to do 5 double stitches UK or triples US over both of these loops. So poke your hook down under there. Oops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we're going to chain 2. We'll skip that last stitch, and in the corner we're going to do 3 stitches, trebles UK, doubles US, 2 chain and 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, chain 2 and 1, 2, 3. So that's our corner, just like a granny square, and that is our side. So we'll do that all the way around. I'll come back and show you how to join up at the end. Okay, so my repeats are done. Don't worry that's a little bit floppy, because the next round we're going to gather some of these things together. Alright, so now I just need to do 3 stitches in the same place as our first stitches, which is where that stitch marker is. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, if you're changing colours, chain 2, join with a slip stitch to your first stitch. If you're not changing colours, chain 1. Oops. Pop your little stitch marker in and join with a double crochet UK or single crochet US. The other side of this stitch. It's hiding. Okay, so loop to the front, yarn over through 2. So just like before, just on a smaller scale. So it's put us in the middle of a 2 chain space. Okay, so this round is going to pull everything together nice and straight again. So we're going to do a double crochet UK, single crochet US over the joining stitch where that stitch marker is. Then we're going to do a stitch in the next 3 stitches, doubles UK, singles US, 1, 2, 3, 2 stitches in the 2 chain space. Now we're going to double crochet UK, single crochet US, 2 stitches together, but instead of doing this stitch and this stitch, we're actually going to do the 1st and the 5th stitch instead. So we insert our hook into the 1st stitch, pull a loop to the front, then we're going to insert our hook into the 5th stitch, bring a loop to the front, yarn over through 2. So it's kind of just an alternative way. It's not quite a popcorn because it's sort of flatter on the sides and just has a little bit sticking up in the middle. Just a new way to gather some things together. 2 stitches in the next 2 chain space, 1 stitch in the next stitch, 2 stitches in the 2 chain space, and again we're joining 2 stitches together. So we're doing in the 1st stitch, pull a loop to the front, then in the 5th stitch, pull a loop to the front through 2. 2 stitches in the next 2 chain space, and then a stitch in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and then the corners is 1 stitch, chain 2, or 1 stitch. There you go. So that will bring everything in and create these little half popcorns, half clusters, I guess. So I'll work my way around and show you how to finish off this round. Okay, so there we go, relatively square. I've done all my repeats. I just need to finish off this round by doing a stitch in the same place as our 1st stitch, which is where that stitch marker was that I just accidentally pulled out. Okay, so stitch in here. Then if you're changing colours, chain 2, join with a slip stitch. If you're not changing colours, chain 1, move your stitch marker, join with a double crochet UK, single crochet US to the 1st stitch. Righty-ho. Next round is a nice easy one. We're going to chain 2 starting chain, and we are going to then chain 1, skip 1 stitch and do a half treble UK or half double US in the next stitch. Oops. And do that all the way along. Chain 1, skip 1, half stitch. And the corners in this round are 1 half treble UK, half double US, 2 chain and 1 half stitch. So half stitch, 2 chain, half stitch in the corners. The sides are chain 1, skip 1, half stitch. So I'm sure you can figure that out. I will do all that and show you how to join up, oops, at the other end. Okay, all my repeats are done. I just need to do chain 1, skip 1 and a stitch in the same place as our 1st stitch, which is where that stitch marker is. Then if you're changing colours, chain 2, join with a slip stitch. If you're not changing colours, chain 1 and join to the top of your 2nd chain of your starting chain with a double crochet UK, single crochet US. Alright, one more round to go, and it's a double crochet UK or single crochet US round. Start with a stitch over the joining stitch, which is right here. You could have moved your stitch marker up if you want, but I think you probably got the idea now. And then a stitch in every stitch and a stitch in every 1 chain space. And our corners are 1 stitch, chain 2, 1 stitch. So I'll work my way around doing all of that and come back and show you how to finish off. Alright, I've worked my way all the way around. I just need to do a stitch in the same place as our 1st stitch, chain 2 and join with a slip stitch to our 1st stitch. And that is that. Alright, and give it a quick block. Now this one here is pretty much the same size in Bendigo Woolen Mills cotton as it is in Cascade Ultra Pepper cotton. Because we've got so many of these larger stitches and clusters, it kind of brings it in a little bit. If you do need to make it a bit bigger, you can add another round at the end, or instead of doing half stitches in this second last round, you could do full stitches, like trebles UK or doubles US. It's totally up to you. But there you go, that is Baltic from Siren's Atlas. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you soon. Thanks, bye.